Welcome to the video that explains how to use percents when solving problems with percents. This is the first of two videos that shows you how to do that. We're going to focus on using proportions this time to solve percent problems. So let's get started. When you're solving percent problems using proportions, you're going to write a proportion every time. So if you remember, the definition of a proportion is an equation or a sentence, a math sentence, stating that two ratios are equal to each other. Every percent is a ratio that relates the part out of 100. The other ratio will always be the part of whatever we're talking about compared to the whole thing that we're talking about. A lot of people like to memorize that it's the number near the is, or the thing near the word is, over the thing near the word of. I don't particularly like that because you're not really showing any understanding, but if that helps you, feel free to go ahead and use it. So your job will be to write a proportion, cross multiply, and then write an equation with your cross products, solve the equation, and write the solution. So let's start with our first example. It says find 84% of 260. Or the question might be asked, what is 84% of 260? So we're going to write a proportion. So I'm going to start by setting up my two fraction bars and my equal sign, because it's not a proportion without an equal sign. So my first ratio is going to be the one that is attached to this 84%. So I'm going to write a ratio for that. So that would be 84 out of 100. Okay. And then I'm finding a part of 260 because 84% is a part of something. So this 260 will be the whole part of my other fraction. And then what I'm looking for is the piece of that 260, the piece that actually represents the 84%. So all I need to do is multiply 84 times 260, and you can go ahead and do that on your not on your calculator. You would have to multiply that out by hand, but in this case I'm not going to actually show the multiplication. So 84 times 260 is 21,840. And that has to equal 100x. So now in order to solve my equation, all I need to do, because I got my 100x by doing that cross product, or that cross product. So now all I need to do is solve my equation. So the way I'm going to solve my equation is I'm going to divide both sides by 100. And when I divide by 100, really all I need to do is take that invisible decimal point that is at the end of that whole number, 21,840, and move that decimal point 2 places to the left. And so if I move the decimal point 2 places to the left, I get 0.4. And that's what my x is. So that means that 84% of 260 is the amount 218.4. 84% is less than the whole thing. 218.4 is less than 260. 84% is more than half of 100%, and 218.4 is more than half of 260. So my answer theoretically makes sense. Okay, moving on to the next example. This one says 84% of what number is 260. So again, I have my percent. I'm going to make that into a ratio, 84 out of 100. Okay, and that is going to be equal to another ratio, and 260 is the 84%, so that's the part. So this is the part. That's the part, so that goes in the numerator. And the whole amount is the what number. So that's a variable, so we're going to use n or x or whatever letter you like. So now we have to do our cross products. So we're going to multiply 100 times 260, so that's easy because that just means I'm going to add 2 zeros onto my 260, moving the decimal point over 2 places to the right. So that's 26,000, and that equals 84n, my other cross product. So now I have to divide on both sides by 84 because since I can't do 84 times n, I have to undo the multiplying by 84. And when I do that, that means that n equals approximately, so rounded to the nearest hundredth, 32.31. Oops, I'm so sorry. That's not true. Let me erase that, just that little part. I was looking at the wrong part of my notes because clearly I had to have divided this out ahead of time. It doesn't equal that. It equals 309. Oh, that I'm still in the eraser. Silly me. N equals approximately 309.52. Okay, so 84% of this number, 309.52, is 260. 84% of that number that I just found is about 260. So let's just make sure. 260 is the 84%. It's less than the whole thing. 260 is doubled would be 520. And so this is a lot less than 520. And since we're finding 84%, we need something that's more than 50. That is, this has to be smaller than 520. So that's how you use the proportion in this kind of an example. So last example using proportions. This time we don't know what the percent is. We want to know what percent of 260 is 84. So you notice I'm using the same numbers, I'm just using them in different ways so you can see how to set up your problem. So what percent? That's the thing we don't know. So that's the ratio that we're going to write, X or whatever letter you want to use. You can use P or whatever your favorite letter is, out of 100. So what percent is the same as this part out of this 260. So 84 out of 260. So there's my ratio, there's my proportion. Okay, so now I have to cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply 100 times 84. And again, all I have to do is add the 2 zeros. So this time the multiplying is very easy again. And that equals the other cross product, which is 260x. And then, since you can't multiply 260 times x, we have to divide by 260. And when you divide by 260, this is where I got my accidental answer the last time. It is approximately 32.31%. So in this problem and in the last example, when you divide, you're going to come up with an answer that just is never ending. So I just made the decision to round it to the hundredths place. You need to either follow the directions or follow the example on the paper, or look at the answer key so you know what format you're looking for. But I would say rounding to the nearest hundredth would be the best option. So remember, going back, we're setting up our percent by putting the percent over 100. That's one of the ratios. And then the other ratio is the part out of, you notice I said that, out of that whole amount that you're given. The whole thing goes in the denominator. Good luck with this.